you, Mr. Chairman. This debate about Betsy DeVos has been an interesting, long, and for some, a painful debate, without any question. I think we all have a consciousness about the importance of education in this country, without any question. I know I do. I think that my friends on the left have a sincere desire to make sure that children have access to quality public education, and I commend and cheer and say amen to that. I, on this side, as well as all of our members on the right, also feel that public education is an absolute necessity. I know that my phone lines, I assume all of our phone lines have been bombarded by calls. Senator Burr, have you got a call or two yet? Only Senator Burr can't remember those calls. But I will tell you that I started answering some of those calls myself as they came into the office. And I started engaging with many of the teachers that were calling my office. I found it very interesting. It was educational for me to chat with my teachers in South Carolina about the place of public education as a priority in our state, about the impact of our education. Wonderful for so many students. But there was, without any question, high levels of confusion around Betsy DeVos. As I delved into their questions with other questions, I simply found that the information that they were provided was inconsistent with the reality of who she is. And more importantly, the more I spoke with my teachers around the state, the more I realized we were not having the right conversation. We were debating Betsy DeVos as if Betsy DeVos single-handedly, according to some on the left, can single-handedly change the education system in America. This is patently false. She does not have that power. As a matter of fact, what she has said consistently is that she would rather return the power to the states, which is the right direction for education. As I spoke with so many of these teachers, many of my teachers came back to mind. Teachers like Mrs. Lynch, who I actually failed her class, and I shouldn't have. Love Mrs. Lynch. And Miss Myers, my Spanish teacher. I actually failed her class too. But they were both really good teachers. I thought about Mrs. Greenberg, and my government teacher. I did decent in government. Miss Cabe. I thought about Mrs. Cryer, Coach Roberts, my fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Wynn, my second Spanish teacher, Miss Barry. I thought about the dedication and the commitment to education, educating me of my teachers. I'm a blessed man because in high school I found a path that allowed me to experience much of my potential. But unfortunately, this is not the way it is throughout our country. Some have said that the power of education cannot be overstated. I would suggest that the results of education in our underperforming schools cannot be overlooked. Kids of color, kids who live in the poorest school districts in this nation, here's what they face. They face higher levels of incarceration. They face higher levels of government dependency. They face higher levels of unemployment. But they face lower levels of lifetime incomes, lower levels of professional progress, lower levels of economic independence. You see, the communities that we're talking about are the communities I grew up in. This is not a debate, a philosophical debate about where we're heading as a country in education. This is a real debate about how kids today will perform as adults tomorrow. And our education system, where it is underperforming, leaves our kids incredibly vulnerable. If you think about where we are from a competitive position against other OECD countries, you'll find it very clear. In 2015, we were 36th in math. We were 18th in science, 14th in reading. We're spending somewhere near $700 billion on education, and our performance is subpar. And for those kids trapped in underperforming schools, this is a sentence for the rest of their lives. We should be just as focused on those underperforming schools, those kids that are trapped, as we are the overall education apparatus. Am I running out of time, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Senator. I think so, and
Well, let me just wrap up then.
Stick close.
I'll wrap up then.
The
Thank you.
clock wasn't working, so now.
I was wondering why my 5 minutes never moved.
No,
I just
no.
assumed it was divine intervention. So now it's moving.
No.
So with only 4 minutes left, Mr. Chairman.
No. We don't have. They won't have time. If you could wrap up, we'll then
I'll
go
wrap
to a
up.
Democratic member.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Let me just say this: the national report card on public education. In math, 40% in the 4th grade are where they need to be. In reading, 36% are where they need to be. For kids of color, in math, 20% are where they need to be. In reading, 30%. What am I suggesting? That the real debate isn't Betsy DeVos. The real debate is generations of kids that are stuck in underperforming schools.
Okay.
That is a travesty.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Murphy.